Welcome to Just Another Messenger. I'm your host, Tamara L. From desert warlords to oil kings, from exporting Wahhabism to importing AI surveillance. This exposé unravels the untold story of Saudi Arabia, the origin, rise, and global agenda. Discover the secret alliance that birthed the kingdom, the petrodollar deal that reshaped the world, and the digital ambitions of MBS under Vision 2030. This is not just about oil, it's about global control. The roots of Saudi Arabia trace back to an unlikely alliance in 1744 between Muhammad ibn Saud, founder of the House of Saud, and Muhammad ibn Abd al-Wahhab, a radical Islamic reformer. Muhammad ibn Saud was the ruler of Diriyah, a small oasis town near modern-day Riyadh, and a tribal chieftain of the Al Saud family, which had modest influence in Central Arabia during the early 1700s. His power was mostly confined to local governance, collecting taxes and resolving disputes among tribes in the Najd region. Muhammad ibn Abd al-Wahhab, born in the town of Al-Uyayna in the Najd region, studied Islamic jurisprudence, theology, and philosophy in Mecca, Medina, Basra, and Damascus. Deeply influenced by Ibn Taymiyyah, a 13th-century scholar known for his literalist and anti-innovation views, Ibn Abd al-Wahhab grew increasingly critical of practices he deemed un-Islamic, including veneration of saints and tombs, Sufism and other mystical traditions, Shia Islam and Ottoman religious authority, celebration of the Prophet's birthday, and the use of talismans and supplications to intermediaries. His mission was to purify Islam by returning to what he considered the original principles of Tawhid, absolute monotheism, and enforcing a rigid interpretation of Sharia law. He labeled opponents as apostates, a dangerous precedent that justified violence. When rejected by his hometown leaders, Ibn Saud entered a mutual pact with the reformist cleric Muhammad ibn Abd al-Wahhab in 1744, agreeing to protect and spread his puritanical Islamic teachings in exchange for religious legitimacy for his rule. This alliance gave Ibn Saud a divine mandate to wage expansionist campaigns across Arabia, with jihad justified under Wahhabi doctrine. This ideological fusion birthed Wahhabism, a strict puritanical interpretation of Islam that would become the state's religious doctrine. For over a century, the Saud-Wahhab alliance conquered tribes across the Arabian Peninsula, often through brutal campaigns of forced conversions and executions. But colonial powers had their eyes on the region too. Britain had two goals in the region: protect their route to India and control the oil flow. After years of tribal warfare and British manipulation, Abdulaziz ibn Saud captured Riyadh in 1902, culminating in the foundation of modern Saudi Arabia in 1932, and crowned himself King of Saudi Arabia. Everything changed in 1938, when Standard Oil of California struck oil in Dhahran. What followed was the creation of Aramco, now the most profitable oil company on earth. With oil wealth, the House of Saud transformed from nomadic rulers into one of the richest families in history. By the 1970s, Saudi Arabia used its OPEC clout to manipulate global oil prices, financing religious schools worldwide and exporting Wahhabi ideology, shaping everything from Pakistan's madrasas to the rise of militant groups. The U.S.-Saudi relationship deepened during the Cold War. In exchange for oil priced in U.S. dollars, thus birthing the petrodollar system, the U.S. promised weapons, military protection, and silence on human rights abuses. Yet beneath this alliance, darker seeds were being sown. Many 9/11's hijackers were Saudi. The kingdom denied involvement, but refused transparency. Classified pages from the 9/11's report remain heavily redacted to this day. Enter Crown Prince Mohammed bin Salman, known as MBS, who rose to power in 2015 with a ruthless grip. In 2017, he launched Vision 2030, a flashy economic overhaul to reduce oil dependence and rebrand the kingdom as a tech and tourism hub. MBS promised moderate Islam, women's rights, and a pivot to the future. But this so-called modernization came with brutal contradictions. The murder and dismemberment of journalist Jamal Khashoggi in 2018 inside the Saudi consulate in Turkey exposed the kingdom's dark underbelly, Surveillance firms like NSO Group reportedly helped Saudi Arabia spy on dissidents. Mass executions soared. Political activists vanished. Yet US and European firms rushed to invest. Amazon, Google, Goldman Sachs, drawn to the trillion-dollar tech dreams of Neom, a futuristic smart city in the desert built on ancestral tribal lands seized by force. In 2022, amid soaring gas prices, President Biden fist-bumped MBS in Jeddah. The message was clear: morality takes a back seat to petroleum politics. Meanwhile, Saudi Arabia courts Russia and China, joins BRICS discussions, and invests billions in global defense, sports, and AI. The kingdom is funding both American infrastructure projects and regional proxy wars, like the catastrophic conflict in Yemen, now called the world's worst humanitarian crisis. When a nation controls your fuel, funds your tech, and shapes your foreign policy, who's really running your country? Saudi Arabia's rise is a blueprint of how resource-rich autocracies evolve, not through democracy, but through dollars, doctrine, and data. It is not just an oil empire, it's a monarchy backed by Western complicity, covered in digital gloss and driven by unchecked ambition. In a world racing toward renewable energy, automation, and artificial intelligence, Saudi Arabia is betting it can rule the new order. But the real question remains: will the world call their bluff or keep cashing their checks? You've been watching Kingdom of Power, the origin, rise, and global agenda of Saudi Arabia. Share this exposé before it disappears from your feed, because truth, like oil, is often buried deep beneath the surface.